Hello, and welcome to the Bay.
Thank you for spending your ships with us.
I'm Jake,
I'm Captain Joel.
and welcome back to another episode of Take Me Out on Your New Ship.
So, we have got Mythic Championship V happening at the end of this week. It starts Friday. We have been anxiously awaiting the deck lists for Mythic Championship V, and there are some absolutely non-surprising things. There are some surprising things.
Is Golos in there?
We're gonna jump right into it, but I need to ask you a favor before we go. Hit like, hit subscribe on this video on our channel if you like it by the end of it. It really helps us out. Also, if you're already a subscriber, we got a Patreon. Look out for the information on that. Jake, you ready to talk about Mythic Championship V?
I am ready, like that meme about spaghetti.
Beautiful. My screen at some point will come up. Here it is. Mythic Championship V Meta Breakdown. First of all, thank you so much to the Mothership and Frank Karsten for putting these numbers together, because the first thing that we see is that Once Upon a Time is the most played card among all 68 deck lists, with Hydroid Krasis right behind it and Growth Spiral right behind it.
I'm not surprised.
No, this is the most unsurprising thing to me. I've played a lot of Standard over the past 2 weeks, as have you. And green decks are everywhere, Jake. Green is mean.
Wait, so you're telling me Once Upon a Time, a card that's played in Modern and Legacy and Standard, and Oko, Thief of Crowns, a card that's played in Modern.
Hey, look, 94 copies. Not that
and
far behind. And look, definitely you have to be playing green as your primary or secondary
what is good
color.
About this card?
Everything.
4/4 with Vigilance.
It's
Death
keyword
Touch, haste,
soup.
Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less.
If you stay home from school sick, you hope that your mom makes you a keyword soup this good.
God, that's a good way of putting it. I've never thought of it like that, and that makes a lot of sense.
What it's proving to us is that green is mean, and what it's also proving to us, and we'll have a video on later this week, is that Oko is waiting in the wings for our friend Golos and our friend Field of the Dead to be banned, if
Dude,
that
Oko,
is to happen.
I just have to say this. Oko is nuts.
Oko is Broco. Look at this.
You never even need the minus on it, and that
Right.
makes it so hard to kill.
Ridiculous, ridiculous. This is the popular deck breakdown. They've got a rogue deck breakdown later in the article, and we're going to get to that because
I don't even want to see these decks.
that Jake likes to live in the rogue deck section. I like to know the popular deck section. So we're going to look at 33, almost 34% of the field being Bant Golos. Seeing that it's a very even split of MPL members and challengers both registering this deck, I'm sure that there are some variations, but this deck is pretty straightforward, and honestly, I can't say I'm shocked.
Well,
Pun. A little bit of a pun. Not much
Dude.
of a pun.
it's funny because the Jeskai Witch's Oven deck actually beats Golos really well.
Well, behind Bant Golos, we've got Simic Food. This is the deck that's running Oko. This is the deck that's running Wicked Wolf to take advantage of the food. This is the deck where you see the turn 1 Goose, they go to turn 2, you see them drop a blue mana, and you go, well, here comes Oko.
They get loose on that turn 1 Goose.
Oh yeah, the Goose comes loose, and then Oko gets Broco. Past that, we see two fair decks in my mind. Actually, I'll take that back. I think Simic Food is pretty fair because I've won my fair share of games against it. It is doable. It's a fair deck. Golgari Adventure, Bant Ramp, Golos Fires. These three, and the we'll save the last one. Those three, Golgari Adventure, Bant Ramp, Golos Fires. These are three fair decks that I think are fun to play because I've played all three of them. They're decent to play against unless they run away, especially the Bant Ramp deck. But also look out for our video where I just bitch about how much ramp there is in the format the entire time. And then past that, you've got what would be my pick if I were registering a deck for this tournament, and that's Gruul Aggro. Gruul Aggro, an aggro deck of the popular decks, represents just 6% of the field. Does that shock you right now?
No, it doesn't, because I see at the top of this, going back to the 33.8% of the field that's playing Bant Golos. I think, I would say, the majority of this is like a hive mind. Oh, this deck is doing really well. Let's all jump on and play it. And so a lot of people are going with what they know is good, and they're not really experimenting with anything that's outside of that zone.
Well, or they've experimented so much, and the hive mind is
true.
correct that they have found the deck that is just so inevitable right now and so hard to keep down, even if you wipe their board multiple times. That it's required playing right now. You have, if you want to give yourself the best chance, honestly, play Golos Field and learn how to beat the Golos Field mirror consistently.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that makes sense. And with $750,000 in the prize pool, it's not really a time to like have fun, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not hive minding all to this. They want to win the 750. If the greater hive mind has found that this is the best deck, I mean, there's a reason. Look at all those MPL players that have registered it. That's a huge percentage of the MPL. Let's go down to the rogue decks, because that's going to be the fun one for us. We're going to pass by all of our Crasises and all of our Wicked Wolves and our nice to see Murderous Rider, but that's just a really good deck. We've seen the Golgari Adventure. I actually am looking forward to Peter playing that one. We see Agent of Treachery pop up.
You can come in here and you can check out all these deck lists.
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to talk about the ones here. Rogue decks. There we go. Okay, so Rogue, we've got Bant Food, which is basically a variation of your Oko decks. We've got Mardu Knights. This is one I'll be very interested to watch, because the most interesting part of this to me, Jake, 3 MPO members registered this deck.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yeah,
especially
cool.
Because I've only heard people stomping all over Mardu Knights being not a good subtype and not being a deck to play. After that,
maybe
you've
they
got
expect to out aggro Golos. Maybe it does have a good matchup versus Golos. I imagine some of these choices are choices that are made knowing that 33% of your field is going to be a specific deck.
Absolutely.
And honestly, when you look at stuff like 4-color Golos or like the other Golos variants, you start adding it up and you start seeing more and more Golos where they're just trying to name it different things in order to, like kind of diversify the field a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, against Golos, if they don't get their perfect draw and you do curve out beautifully with your aggro deck, if you have a deck that's built to put 20 damage across consistently by turn 6 or 7, you might have something on your hands. If Golos remains 33% of the field and some of these other mid-rangey decks don't, that's not who you're matched up against, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And whatever gets on your hands, you want to hope it's not something you need to wash off.
Under the Knights, we've got Selesnya Adventure representing the exact same percentage of the field. 1 MPO player, 2 challengers playing this. I saw Reed Duke playing this a lot in the last 2 weeks. It's brought Loxodon back into the format. It's brought Unbreakable Formation back into the format, which we saw a lot with Mono White.
And Edgewell Innkeeper is a really good card as well.
It's
a
absolutely.
good card, and
absolutely.
If you can trigger shell, it's a great engine.
That's what I'm saying. If you can trigger it multiple times, it becomes an enabler to turn a mid aggro deck into something mid range that can grind with the best of them. Under that, look at this. We've got a challenger bringing a 4-color Golos deck into the mix. What do you think of this?
We'll just skip past that. We have a pretty good idea of what that deck does.
Yep, we got Jeskai Fires again, which is a Ali Eldrazi build. I haven't seen this deck list per se, but Jeskai Fires I saw first from Ali Eldrazi, and it's an awesome deck. It got me a lot of ranks in the ranked ladder, so love that one. Then we've got
Fires is actually seeing some play in Modern, so I expect we're going to see probably post Field of Ruin ban if that does happen. Or not Field of Ruin, Field of the Dead.
Yeah.
We'll probably see more experimentation. And
Field of Ruin is the card that we wish we had in Standard right now.
That's right.
Because that would maybe limit the number of Golos decks. Then we've got 3 Spicy Brews under here.
Ooh,
one
baby.
that is very much what I like to play with Jund mid-range, or, kind of a Rakdos-y aggro push. We've got Mono Red Cavalcade, which is Joel to a T. Interesting, by the way, that we have an MPO member here that has registered Jeskai Fires, an MPO member here that has registered Mono Red Cavalcade for this tournament. I am so rooting for this deck right here because I think it's the biggest underdog of the entire set.
Yeah, and I'm rooting for the deck below.
Oh, dude. Then we've got Rakdos Sacrifice, and this is the one you wanted to talk about.
Well, yeah, I'm excited about this deck, so let's go down to it really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the deck list, Jake. Okay, so for a little backstory, Jake has been testing Witch's Oven decks for like 3 or 4 weeks now. He started in Historic, and then he realized that like 85% of the cards he was running were in Standard, and so he started messing around with that other 15% to try and make it a Standard deck, and you've found some success.
Well, yeah, but my build is a Jeskai build, and I use, like Narset and, Teferi and, a lot of really good cards that are kind of annoying. This doesn't run Active Treason, which I run 4 of, but this does run 4 Claim the Firstborn and 4 Witch's Oven, so I know that this player is at least hip to the power of Witch's Oven, so this is definitely an underdog deck. And I'm excited to see what they're able to do here. I mean, the deck doesn't run bad cards either. It's got Knight of the Ebon Legion, which is an absolute all-star, Judith, which is excellent. Obviously, Gutterbones and Mayhem Devil, and Cauldron Familiar, which, if you have been playing on MTG Arena, you've played against somebody who's been sacrificing a Cauldron Familiar in a Witch's Oven over and over and over again, and they're just draining you. So I'm really excited to see what this deck does, and if it's going to get there. I see the Flame Sweep in the sideboard. I see the Legion's End sorcery. So the deck looks like it's ready to deal with Golos, and so man, I'm excited to see what this deck does. I think it looks really fun.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more fun ones to look out for. I think what your deck does well that this deck doesn't do is go for the long game. I think you play a much grindier game that takes advantage of having the Planeswalkers, takes advantage of the ability to use Narset and dig for your Claim the Firstborns and your agent or your
Acts of Treason.
Yeah, your Acts of Treason. Whereas this one goes for more of a straightforward approach. It really wants to get multiple pieces out on the battlefield. Because look, I've played this deck quite a few times on Arena. And when it gets a Mayhem Devil that you can't answer, a Witch's Oven that you can't answer, and a Cauldron Familiar, which once Witch's Oven is on the battlefield, you can never answer unless you get so friggin' lucky, and it's a horrible 2-for-1, and you just want to ace the thing.
Yeah, and then you're playing like a premium removal to try to kill it in response to them sacrificing it, or it's like it's awful. It's
this deck. If it gets the right draw, this deck can get really annoying to deal with and make games just that you think you have full control of get out of reach. So that is definitely Jake's pick, Rakdos Sacrifice. That is the underdog that he will be following. Let me take it back up here. I want to see real fast which one I'm picking. I think I'm going to pick Jund Midrange because this is just so my kind of deck. You got 4 Questing Beast. This is the top of your curve right here is these Hasty Boys. I've been telling Jake for about 3 or 4 days now. This is where the meta is heading for aggro or midrange. You have to be running these big hasty creatures. Then you've got Haste Creature, huge creature that requires a full removal. You can't just burn it down. Bone Crusher Giant, which we've already said in past videos, is an MVP. Shifting Ceratops is a 1-of, and I'm assuming... Oh, wow, look at that. No more Shifting Ceratops in the sideboard for control matchups. But honestly, control's not really that big of a thing right now, and so it makes sense not having to plan too hard to fight against a pure control deck. After that, you've got some hand fixing, some beats that turn into more beats. The standard Legion's End as a 1-of Collision Colossus to either kill your flyer or get through with that final points of damage, and Embercleave, which is your finisher.
For the trample there, for sure.
Absolutely. Colossus. I love those kind of decks. You know I love those kind of decks. That is our quick initial first impressions of what Mythic 5 Championship is going to look like. It's going to be very interesting to have a major tournament followed so quickly by a ban of probably a card that is going to be so pivotal in this tournament.
So the tournament happens on October 18th.
Starts on Friday.
And then the banning is going to be on the 21st. So most likely we see that the meta is completely dominated by Golos variants, so we're probably going to see a Field of the Dead ban.
Yeah, and it's showing my
sense.
hand even further that I didn't do a ton of research before we shot this video, because it just happened so fast, and I want to go ahead and talk about it. But I bet if you look at when deadlines were coming up for these competitors to submit their deck lists, and you look at the date and timestamp of the announcement of them moving the BNR up, I don't think, if I'm Wizards, I want almost 34% of my field to have to be a deck according to the people that we are paying to play this game professionally. I just don't think that's good for the player base.
Yeah, and I know that Golos Fires is a different deck. I do know that.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's so many, does Golos Fires, if we go to Golos Fires really quick before we close out this video.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me swap back to this view and we'll go down to it.
Is Golos Fires also depending on Field of the Dead?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. If they're built, here's Golos Fires. It does not register. Yep, it does register for Field of the Dead.
All right, so essentially,
so there you go.
Essentially, you're looking at an entire field, and I would even wager that the Bant ramp is probably running Field of the Dead as well.
Yep, I bet we can go check. You know what this is also running? 3 Hydroid Krasis.
Yeah, so essentially,
nope, no Field of the Dead on Bant ramp. It requires. Okay. It relies on getting to Nissa quickly, essentially, because you go turn 1 Goose, turn 2 Oko. You can go turn 4 Nissa if you don't hit. Yeah, I think turn 4 Nissa is the fastest.
The main culprit here, and the main reason that we're looking at such a kind of, in my humble opinion, a kind of stale metagame here, is because Field of the Dead is in more than 40% of the decks.
Yeah, absolutely, so, and I think that's worth noting.
That's a big note.
It's prevalent. It is absolutely prevalent. I will say that I'm having a ton of fun with this standard regardless. Sure. When I run into that deck, I roll my eyes and go, let's get through this. I'm more of an aggro player, and so, my favorite deck that I've made in this standard has been my my aggro Rakdos Mayhem, top end. And it's always, all right, let's rush them. Let's try and race them. I'm going to mulligan, and, if I don't have a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop in my opener, I'm going to seriously consider mulliganing so that I can have, 2 lands and my 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop.
Yep.
Because that's what it takes in this standard. Other than that, guys, let us know, and gals, let us know what y'all think about this Mythic Championship V Field of the Dead. I know that is the big conversation right now. And, it's going to be very interesting to have a major tournament and then have it immediately kicked out.
Yeah. I think at the beginning here, they show us all these cards that are in X amount of the decks, but why are we not looking at Field of the Dead in any of those cards?
Yeah.
It can't possibly be. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it.
Yep. I am tapped out. Jake, you got anything else?
I'm just looking forward to see, what people do differently once this pesky land is banned.
Yeah, the answer is going to be Oko, Jake. We already know the answer is going to be Oko.
That's right.
Catch you later.